have no knowledge, and their honorable men are famished, and their multitude dried up with thirst. Therefore hell hath enlarged herself, and opened her mouth without measure, and their glory, and their multitude, and their pomp, and he that rejoiceth shall descend into it.
And he that rejoiceth shall descend down into it.
Woe unto them that call evil good, and good evil, that put darkness for light, and light for darkness, that put bitter for sweet, and sweet for bitter. Woe unto them that are wise in their own eyes, and prudent in their own sight. And in that day they shall roar against them like the roaring of the sea, and if one look unto the land, behold, darkness and
invece di tornare a casa con i suoi, si era fermato a Gerusalemme nel Tempio, provocando una grande pena a Maria e Giuseppe che non lo trovavano più. Per questa sua scappatella, probabilmente anche Gesù dovette chiedere scusa ai suoi genitori.
God sees to the fruits of our labors. And if at times our efforts and works seem to fail and not produce fruit, we need to remember that we are followers of Jesus Christ, and his life, humanly speaking, ended in failure, the failure of the cross.
Talvolta capita di sentire qualcuno dire: io credo in Dio, credo in Gesù, ma la Chiesa non mi interessa. Quante volte abbiamo sentito questo? Questo non va. C'è chi ritiene di poter avere un rapporto personale, diretto, immediato con Gesù Cristo, al di fuori della comunione e della meditazione della Chiesa. Sono tentazioni pericolose, sono tentazioni dannose, sono, come diceva il grande Paolo VI, dicotomie assurde.
All right, we're talking to Father Jack Ashcroft, but you said something that's very interesting that I want to get back to. Since we're talking about how the political side, the societal side, and the influence of the occult is really playing out, you said about the Pope in the last segment, the so-called Pope. That kind of struck me as interesting since you are Father Jack Ashcroft. Do you not agree that this is the Pope?
No, I do not. He is what we would call an anti-Pope. As a response to the Second Vatican Council and the modernism that issued forth from that, the false teachings, false practices, there was a response by certain members of the clergy, including a Cardinal Ottaviani, to the changes that the Second Vatican Council was implementing, demonstrating how they undermined the faith, they undermined the foundation of the gospel of Christ, and they literally created a new religion. And by way of demonstrating that, it's interesting to note that the new Mass that is celebrated in most of what are called Catholic churches today is called the Novus Ordo Missae, the New Order Mass. Kind of interesting, that little bit of connection. Yes, it is actually called the Novus Ordo Missae. So, a growing number of clergy responded by saying, we do not accept these changes. We are not going in this direction. And as a matter of fact, the Pope who is agreeing to this has become a manifest heretic. And we cannot agree that he is the Pope any longer. And thus was born a movement called Sede Vacantism. Sede meaning the seat, vacante meaning vacant. In other words, the seat of the Bishop of Rome is empty. There is no Bishop of Rome. From John the 23rd, who was a Freemason, which automatically excommunicated him, down to Frankenpope, or Pope Francis if you prefer. None of these men are Catholic, and none of these men can even claim to be Christians in any sense of the word. They are modernists, they are heretics, they are globalists, they're relativists. And so when I say the so-called Pope, it's because of that. The fact of the matter is, there is grave doubt, and Catholics listening to this need to understand there is grave doubt that any of these men, ordained or consecrated, using the Novus Ordo rites, is even valid. In other words, the priest in your parish might not even be a valid priest.
Would you say then, because of the direction that it's going and because of the occupancy of that position by somebody who is evidently not qualified to hold that position, that it's of a satanic influence? Because I would think if I was Satan, man, that would be a great coup d'etat right there, to put somebody who's not qualified in that seat.
Even Paul VI, who was a heretic himself, at the conclusion of the Second Vatican Council, and I encourage your listeners to go look this up and you'll find out it's true, he proclaimed the smoke of Satan has entered the church.
Wow.
Pretty serious proclamation.
So do we see this current Pope leading people in a satanic way? I mean, as an exorcist who's been doing this for a long time, do you see similarities between what the current Pope, or Franken-Pope, is doing and what you see in symbology or acting out in the demonic realm?
I will say this, that Francis is promoting the same agenda that the progressives are, the same agenda that the globalists are. And the globalists and the progressives have a foundational philosophy rooted in occultism. Therefore, I would say anyone who remains in the Novus Ordo Church, who continues to follow the hierarchy of the Novus Ordo, their souls are in danger because they are following the program of Satan at this point. Absolutely. By virtue of his teachings and their extreme departure from traditional Christian doctrine and morals and ethics, he is no longer a Christian. He's become a false teacher. He's a heretic. And again, the Catholic faithful it would behoove them not to follow him and not to recognize him.